Question 1. Market research demonstrates that organizations are increasingly seeking to streamline data center operations through automation. When considering process optimization for a Cisco data center environment, which of the following approaches best balances the drive for efficiency with the imperative to maintain regulatory compliance and operational integrity? Option A. Utilizing scripting to automate the collection of operational metrics, prioritizing the speed of data gathering over the accuracy and completeness of the data, potentially leading to misinterpretations of system health and compliance status. Option B. Automating the decommissioning of unused network ports and devices based on a predefined schedule, without verifying that all associated data has been securely erased or that regulatory retention policies have been met. Option C. Implementing automated configuration management tools to rapidly deploy standardized network device configurations across the data center, ensuring all configurations adhere to predefined security baselines and audit trails are maintained. Option D. Deploying a fully automated, self-healing network fabric that dynamically reconfigures paths based on real-time traffic conditions, without prior validation of how these dynamic changes might affect data segregation policies or compliance reporting. Correct answer is C. Implementing automated configuration management tools to rapidly deploy standardized network device configurations across the data center, ensuring all configurations adhere to predefined security baselines and audit trails are maintained. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in balancing the drive for efficiency gains through automation with the imperative to maintain compliance and security within a Cisco data center environment. The core difficulty lies in identifying and implementing process optimizations that not only improve operational speed and reduce manual effort, but also adhere strictly to the regulatory framework governing data center operations. Without a thorough understanding of these regulations, any automation effort risks introducing vulnerabilities or non-compliance, leading to significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and operational disruptions. Careful judgment is required to select optimization strategies that are both technically sound and legally defensible. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing data center processes, identifying bottlenecks and areas ripe for automation, and then mapping these potential optimizations against the specific requirements of the 300-635 Automating Cisco Data Center Solutions (DCAUTO) exam's regulatory framework. This framework, for the purpose of this exam, is assumed to be aligned with general principles of data center security, availability, and operational integrity as often mandated by industry best practices and common regulatory bodies that influence IT infrastructure. The key is to prioritize optimizations that enhance efficiency without compromising security controls, data integrity, or auditability. For instance, automating routine patching or configuration management, when done with proper validation and rollback mechanisms, directly supports compliance by ensuring systems are up to date and configured according to policy, thereby reducing the attack surface and improving overall security posture. This aligns with the DCAUTO exam's focus on leveraging automation for robust and compliant data center operations. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing automation without a prior assessment of its impact on regulatory compliance is a significant ethical and professional failure. For example, automating the provisioning of network services without incorporating checks for adherence to access control policies or data segregation requirements could lead to unauthorized access or data breaches, violating principles of data protection and security mandated by various regulatory bodies. Another failure would be to prioritize speed of deployment over thorough testing and validation of automated workflows. This can result in misconfigurations that, while perhaps not immediately apparent, could lead to service disruptions or security vulnerabilities, contravening the duty to maintain a stable and secure operational environment. Furthermore, neglecting to document the automated processes and their compliance implications makes auditing difficult and can be seen as a failure to maintain proper records, which is a common regulatory requirement. Professional reasoning. Professionals tasked with automating Cisco data center solutions must adopt a risk-based approach. This involves 1. Understanding the specific regulatory landscape relevant to their data center's operations. 2. conducting a comprehensive audit of current processes to identify areas for optimization. 3. Evaluating potential automation solutions not only for their technical efficacy and efficiency gains, but also for their impact on compliance and security. 4. Prioritizing automation efforts that demonstrably improve operational efficiency while strengthening or maintaining compliance. 5. Implementing robust testing, validation, and monitoring mechanisms for all automated processes. 6. Ensuring comprehensive documentation of automated workflows and their compliance implications. This structured approach ensures that automation serves to enhance, rather than undermine, the integrity and security of the data center, aligning with professional responsibilities and regulatory expectations. Question 2. The control framework reveals a critical need to automate network provisioning tasks within the Cisco data center to improve deployment speed. However, the existing framework has not been updated to explicitly address the nuances of automated provisioning. Which approach best aligns with maintaining operational integrity and regulatory compliance during this automation initiative? Option A. Develop and deploy automation scripts that directly interact with network devices, bypassing existing manual change control procedures to accelerate provisioning. Option B. Focus solely on the technical aspects of automation, assuming that the speed of deployment will inherently satisfy operational requirements and implicitly meet compliance needs. Option C. Implement a shadow IT automation solution that operates independently of the formal control framework to avoid delays associated with compliance reviews. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of the existing control framework and relevant data center regulations. Then design automation solutions that integrate with and enhance these controls, ensuring auditability and compliance. Correct answer is A. Develop and deploy automation scripts that directly interact with network devices, bypassing existing manual change control procedures to accelerate provisioning. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for operational efficiency with the long-term implications of process automation, particularly concerning data integrity and compliance within the Cisco data center environment. The pressure to deliver rapid automation solutions can sometimes lead to shortcuts that compromise established control frameworks. Careful judgment is required to ensure that automation efforts align with, rather than circumvent, regulatory requirements and best practices for data center operations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding and adherence to the established control framework before implementing automation. This ensures that automated processes are designed to be compliant, auditable, and maintain the integrity of data center operations. By integrating automation into the existing control framework, it reinforces governance, reduces the risk of introducing new vulnerabilities, and ensures that the automation itself is subject to oversight and validation. This aligns with the principles of responsible technology adoption and risk management inherent in data center operations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed of deployment without considering the control framework risks introducing noncompliance. For instance, automating a process without validating its adherence to data handling regulations or security protocols could lead to significant legal and financial penalties. Another incorrect approach might involve creating a separate, unmonitored automation layer that bypasses existing controls. This creates an Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Hamzatat Alif, Arabic Tain, Arabic Meme, Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Sin, Arabic Wow, Arabic Dal, Arabic Alif, Arabic Hamza. Black box scenario, making it impossible to audit, troubleshoot effectively, or ensure that sensitive data is handled according to regulatory mandates. Such a failure to integrate and validate automation within the established governance structure is a direct violation of professional responsibility and can lead to data breaches, operational disruptions, and reputational damage. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive review of the existing control framework and relevant regulatory guidelines. Before initiating any automation project, a risk assessment should be conducted to identify potential compliance gaps. The automation strategy should then be designed to address these gaps and integrate seamlessly with existing controls. Continuous monitoring, validation, and auditing of automated processes are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance and operational integrity. This iterative approach, grounded in governance and risk management, ensures that automation enhances, rather than compromises, the security and compliance posture of the data center. Question 3. The performance metrics show a consistent increase in latency and a degradation in throughput for critical data center services. Which automated approach is most effective for diagnosing the root cause of this performance degradation? Option A. Manually review recent configuration changes across all network devices and servers, correlating them with the observed performance degradation. Option B. Initiate an automated process to restart all affected data center services to clear any temporary glitches. Option C. Rely on the experience of senior engineers to identify the most probable cause based on historical incidents and intuition. Option D. Implement an automated script to collect and analyze network device logs, system performance counters, and application-level telemetry data to identify patterns and anomalies. Correct answer is D. Implement an automated script to collect and analyze network device logs, system performance counters, and application-level telemetry data to identify patterns and anomalies. Explanation. The performance metrics show a consistent increase in latency and a degradation in throughput for critical data center services. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly impacts business operations and customer experience, requiring a swift and accurate diagnosis and resolution. The pressure to restore service levels quickly can lead to hasty decisions. Careful judgment is required to balance speed with thoroughness, ensuring that the chosen automation strategy not only addresses the immediate issue, but also prevents recurrence and adheres to operational best practices. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it leverages automation to identify the root cause of performance degradation through systematic analysis of logs and telemetry data. This aligns with the principles of efficient and reliable data center operations, as emphasized by industry standards and Cisco's best practices for data center automation. By automating the diagnostic process, it reduces human error, accelerates troubleshooting, and provides actionable insights for remediation. This proactive and data-driven methodology ensures that solutions are based on evidence, leading to more stable and performant systems, and ultimately, better business outcomes. It also supports continuous improvement by establishing a repeatable process for performance monitoring and issue resolution. An incorrect approach that involves manually reconfiguring network devices without a clear understanding of the root cause is professionally unacceptable. This is because it introduces a high risk of further disruption and misconfiguration, potentially exacerbating the problem. It violates the principle of least privilege and change control, as it bypasses established procedures for network modifications. Ethically, it could lead to service outages that negatively impact customers and the organization's reputation. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on anecdotal evidence or the opinion of a single engineer, without validating findings through automated data analysis, is also professionally unsound. This method is prone to bias and incomplete understanding, leading to ineffective or incorrect solutions. It fails to uphold the professional responsibility to base decisions on objective data and thorough investigation. Such an approach can result in wasted resources and prolonged downtime, undermining the trust placed in IT professionals. A third incorrect approach that involves implementing a quick fix by simply restarting services without diagnosing the underlying issue is professionally deficient. While it might offer temporary relief, it does not address the fundamental problem, leading to its inevitable recurrence. This demonstrates a lack of commitment to long-term stability and operational excellence. It also fails to meet the professional obligation to provide sustainable solutions that ensure the integrity and performance of the data center infrastructure. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes data-driven analysis and automated diagnostics. When performance metrics indicate issues, the first step should be to leverage existing automation tools to collect and analyze relevant telemetry and logs. This provides an objective basis for understanding the problem. Based on this analysis, a targeted remediation plan can be developed, which may involve further automation for deployment or manual intervention if necessary. Throughout the process, adherence to change management protocols and thorough testing are crucial to ensure that solutions are effective and do not introduce new problems. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops are essential for ongoing optimization and proactive issue prevention. Question 4. Process analysis reveals that the current manual provisioning of network services in the data center is time-consuming and prone to human error, leading to delays and occasional misconfigurations. To improve efficiency, a team proposes automating this process using Cisco UCS Director. However, the proposed automation script bypasses the standard change control and documentation review process, aiming for rapid deployment. What is the most professionally sound approach to optimizing this process while adhering to regulatory and best practice standards? Option A. Automate the provisioning process using the script, but exclude any steps that involve logging or auditing to maintain the speed of execution. Option B. Focus solely on the technical aspects of automation, assuming that efficiency gains will inherently lead to better compliance outcomes. Option C. Deploy the automated provisioning script immediately to gain efficiency and address any potential compliance issues retrospectively through manual audits. Option D. Implement the automated provisioning script after a thorough review of its impact on existing compliance controls and data integrity, ensuring it integrates with the existing change management system and generates comprehensive audit logs. The correct answer is D. Implement the automated provisioning script after a thorough review of its impact on existing compliance controls and data integrity, ensuring it integrates with the existing change management system and generates comprehensive audit logs. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the drive for efficiency with the need for robust, auditable processes that comply with regulatory requirements. The professional challenge lies in identifying and implementing automation strategies that not only streamline operations, but also maintain or enhance compliance posture, particularly concerning data integrity, access control, and change management. The DCAUTO exam focuses on Cisco solutions, implying a context where adherence to industry best practices and vendor-specific guidelines is paramount. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, documented, and validated method for process optimization. By leveraging automation to enforce predefined workflows and audit trails, it directly addresses regulatory concerns around accountability and traceability. This aligns with principles of good governance and risk management, ensuring that changes are controlled, understood, and can be readily demonstrated to auditors. The focus on integrating compliance checks within the automated workflow is key to proactive risk mitigation. An incorrect approach that bypasses established change control procedures and documentation is professionally unacceptable. This failure represents a significant regulatory and ethical lapse. It creates blind spots in the audit trail, making it impossible to verify the integrity of automated processes or to demonstrate compliance with data handling and security regulations. Such an approach increases the risk of unauthorized changes, data breaches, and non-compliance penalties. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering the impact on existing compliance controls is also flawed. While efficiency is a goal, it cannot come at the expense of regulatory adherence. This oversight can lead to unintended consequences, such as automated processes that inadvertently violate data privacy laws or security policies, creating a compliance gap that is difficult to remediate. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment before implementing any automation. This includes identifying all relevant regulatory requirements, understanding the current state of processes, and evaluating how proposed automation will impact compliance. A phased approach, with pilot testing and validation, is crucial. Furthermore, continuous monitoring and auditing of automated processes are essential to ensure ongoing compliance and to adapt to evolving regulatory landscapes. Professionals must always prioritize a secure, compliant, and auditable automated environment over purely speed-driven optimization. Question 5. The risk matrix shows a moderate to high likelihood of security vulnerabilities and compliance deviations arising from the rapid deployment of new automation scripts in the data center. Which approach best balances the need for process optimization with the imperative of maintaining a secure and compliant environment? Option A. Implement automation scripts immediately to realize efficiency gains and address any security or compliance issues that arise reactively. Option B. Deploy automation scripts in a limited scope, assuming that any potential issues will be minor and easily rectifiable without formal validation. Option C. Conduct a thorough risk assessment, develop robust testing and validation procedures, establish clear rollback mechanisms, and integrate security and compliance checks into the automation lifecycle before full deployment. Option D. Prioritize the deployment of automation scripts that offer the most significant efficiency improvements, deferring detailed security and compliance reviews until after the initial rollout. The correct answer is A. Implement automation scripts immediately to realize efficiency gains and address any security or compliance issues that arise reactively. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the drive for efficiency and speed with the imperative of maintaining compliance and security. The risk matrix highlights potential vulnerabilities introduced by rapid automation deployment. The challenge lies in ensuring that process optimization efforts do not inadvertently create new security gaps or violate regulatory requirements, which could lead to significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and operational disruptions. The pressure to deliver faster automation solutions can sometimes overshadow the need for thorough validation and risk assessment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a phased, risk-aware deployment strategy. This involves integrating security and compliance checks into the automation lifecycle from the outset, rather than as an afterthought. By conducting thorough testing, validation, and impact assessments before full deployment, and by establishing clear rollback procedures, the organization mitigates the risk of introducing critical vulnerabilities. This aligns with best practices in IT governance and risk management, ensuring that automation enhances operational efficiency without compromising security or compliance. This approach demonstrates a commitment to responsible innovation and adherence to established control frameworks, which are implicitly expected in regulated environments. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing speed of deployment over comprehensive risk assessment. This directly contravenes the principles of secure development and deployment, potentially leading to the introduction of exploitable vulnerabilities or non-compliance with data handling regulations. Such a failure could result in significant regulatory fines and a loss of customer trust. Another incorrect approach is to deploy automation without a clear rollback plan. This creates a situation where, if issues arise, the organization may be unable to quickly restore normal operations, leading to extended downtime and potential data loss. This lack of preparedness is a failure in operational resilience and risk mitigation, which are critical for maintaining business continuity and meeting regulatory obligations related to service availability. A third incorrect approach is to bypass established change management and validation processes. This undermines the integrity of the IT infrastructure and introduces an unacceptable level of risk. It can lead to unforeseen system interactions, security breaches, and non-compliance with audit requirements, all of which carry severe regulatory and business consequences. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach process optimization in data center automation by first understanding the existing risk landscape as depicted in the risk matrix. This involves a systematic evaluation of potential threats and vulnerabilities associated with proposed automation changes. The decision-making process should prioritize A. Security and compliance by design philosophy. This means integrating risk assessment and mitigation strategies into every stage of the automation development and deployment lifecycle. Before any automation is implemented, a thorough impact analysis should be conducted, considering its effects on security, compliance, and operational stability. Establishing clear testing, validation, and rollback procedures is paramount. Professionals should always adhere to established change management protocols and ensure that all automation solutions are thoroughly vetted against relevant regulatory frameworks and internal security policies. When faced with pressure to accelerate deployment, it is crucial to advocate for a balanced approach that upholds these critical principles, rather than compromising on risk management. Question 6. Compliance review shows that the automated deployment of network configurations in the data center is frequently expedited by temporarily bypassing certain security policy validation checks, with the intention of conducting a full audit post-deployment. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory frameworks and professional best practices for ensuring data center automation security and compliance? Option A. Integrate automated security and compliance validation checks directly into the configuration deployment workflow, ensuring all changes are verified before activation. Option B. Conduct comprehensive manual security and compliance audits only after the automation has completed all configuration deployments. Option C. Rely solely on periodic, post-deployment audits to identify and rectify any security or compliance deviations introduced by automation. Option D. Temporarily disable specific security and compliance checks during initial automated deployments to accelerate the process, planning to address them in subsequent manual reviews. The correct answer is A. Integrate automated security and compliance validation checks directly into the configuration deployment workflow, ensuring all changes are verified before activation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the drive for efficiency and speed with the imperative of maintaining robust security and compliance. The pressure to rapidly deploy new services, coupled with the complexity of modern data center infrastructure, can lead to shortcuts or incomplete validation processes. The professional challenge lies in ensuring that automation, while intended to streamline operations, does not inadvertently create new vulnerabilities or compliance gaps. Careful judgment is required to identify and mitigate these risks before they impact the organization's security posture or regulatory standing. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves integrating security and compliance checks directly into the automation workflow, specifically at the point of configuration deployment. This ensures that every change, regardless of how minor it may seem, is validated against established security policies and regulatory requirements before it becomes active. This proactive, shift-left security model is best professional practice because it prevents non-compliant configurations from entering the production environment. From a regulatory perspective, this aligns with principles of continuous compliance and risk management, ensuring that the organization can demonstrate adherence to relevant standards and laws at all times. It minimizes the likelihood of audit failures and associated penalties. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to rely solely on post-deployment audits for security and compliance validation. This is a reactive measure that allows non-compliant configurations to exist, even if temporarily, in the production environment. This creates an unacceptable risk window, increasing the potential for security breaches or regulatory violations. Ethically and regulatorily, this approach fails to uphold the principle of due diligence and proactive risk mitigation. Another incorrect approach is to perform manual security and compliance checks after the automation has completed the deployment. While better than no checks, this introduces human error and delays the identification of issues. Automation is intended to reduce manual intervention and its associated risks. Relying on manual checks undermines the benefits of automation and can lead to inconsistencies, making it difficult to maintain a reliable compliance posture. This approach also fails to meet the standard of efficient and secure automated processes. A third incorrect approach is to bypass certain security and compliance checks for speed during initial deployment, with the intention of addressing them later. This is a direct violation of security, best practices, and regulatory mandates that require adherence to policies at all times. It demonstrates a disregard for established controls and creates a significant security and compliance debt that is difficult and costly to resolve. This approach is ethically unsound and exposes the organization to substantial legal and financial repercussions. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to automation, prioritizing the integration of security and compliance controls at every stage of the automation lifecycle. This involves defining clear policies, automating their enforcement, and establishing continuous monitoring mechanisms. When faced with pressure to expedite deployments, professionals must advocate for the inclusion of necessary checks, explaining the potential risks and consequences of bypassing them. The decision-making process should always weigh the benefits of speed against the non-negotiable requirements of security and compliance, ensuring that automation serves to enhance, not compromise, the organization's integrity. Question 7. The audit findings indicate that the automated network provisioning workflow for new virtual machine deployments lacks a critical validation step to ensure adherence to security group policies and subnet allocation rules before the network interfaces are activated in the production environment. Which of the following approaches best addresses this audit finding and upholds best professional practices for data center automation? Option A. Remove the network provisioning step from the automated workflow and revert to manual configuration by network engineers for all new virtual machine deployments. Option B. Rely on post-deployment manual network audits to identify and correct any misconfigurations, assuming that the speed of automated provisioning outweighs the risk of minor errors. Option C. Implement an automated pre-deployment validation module within the provisioning workflow that verifies proposed network configurations against a predefined policy database, flagging any deviations for review and remediation before activation. Option D. Introduce a basic ping test to confirm network connectivity after interface activation, considering this sufficient validation for security and allocation rules. The correct answer is C. Implement an automated pre-deployment validation module within the provisioning workflow that verifies proposed network configurations against a predefined policy database, flagging any deviations for review and remediation before activation. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the drive for efficiency with the need for robust, auditable processes. The audit findings highlight a potential gap in the automated provisioning workflow, specifically concerning the validation of network configurations before they are deployed to production. This is professionally challenging because a failure in this stage can lead to significant network outages, data integrity issues, and security vulnerabilities, all of which have direct implications for compliance and business continuity. The pressure to deliver services quickly can sometimes lead to shortcuts that bypass critical validation steps, creating a tension between speed and thoroughness. The correct approach involves integrating a comprehensive, automated validation step within the provisioning workflow. This validation should verify that the proposed network configuration adheres to predefined policies, security standards, and operational best practices. This represents best professional practice because it proactively identifies and mitigates risks before they impact the production environment. From a regulatory and ethical standpoint, this approach aligns with principles of due diligence, risk management, and responsible system deployment. It ensures that automated processes are not only efficient but also reliable and secure, thereby upholding the organization's commitment to operational integrity and data protection. This proactive validation is crucial for demonstrating compliance with internal policies and any relevant industry standards that mandate secure and reliable network operations. An incorrect approach would be to rely solely on manual review of configuration changes after deployment. This is professionally unacceptable because it is reactive rather than proactive. It introduces a significant delay in identifying and rectifying errors, increasing the potential for widespread impact and making remediation more complex and costly. From a regulatory perspective, this approach fails to demonstrate adequate risk mitigation and could be seen as a violation of principles requiring robust change management and testing procedures. It also introduces human error, which automated validation aims to minimize. Another incorrect approach is to bypass validation entirely for minor configuration changes, assuming they pose no risk. This is ethically and professionally unsound because the definition of minor can be subjective and prone to misinterpretation. Even seemingly small changes can have cascading effects in a complex data center environment. This approach undermines the integrity of the automated provisioning system and creates a loophole that could be exploited, intentionally or unintentionally, leading to security breaches or operational disruptions. It fails to uphold the principle of consistent application of controls across all changes. A third incorrect approach is to implement validation checks that are too simplistic or do not cover all critical parameters. This is professionally deficient because it creates a false sense of security. The validation may pass, but the actual configuration could still be non-compliant or insecure. This approach fails to meet the standard of thoroughness expected in data center operations and could lead to regulatory scrutiny if it results in a compliance failure. It demonstrates a lack of understanding of the potential impact of configuration errors and an inadequate approach to risk assessment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a risk-based approach. First, identify all critical points in the automation workflow where errors could have significant consequences. Second, assess the potential impact of such errors, considering operational, security, and compliance implications. Third, design and implement automated checks and balances at these critical points, that are comprehensive and aligned with organizational policies and regulatory requirements. Fourth, continuously monitor and refine these automated processes based on operational feedback and audit findings to ensure ongoing effectiveness and compliance. This systematic process ensures that automation enhances, rather than compromises, the reliability and security of the data center. Question 8. Regulatory review indicates that a data center is seeking to optimize its server provisioning process. The goal is to reduce the time from request to deployment while ensuring all security and compliance checks are met. Which approach best aligns with both process optimization and regulatory adherence for automating this workflow? Option A. Develop automation scripts that integrate with existing, documented, and validated change management workflows, focusing on automating repetitive tasks within those workflows and incorporating automated validation checks. Option B. Automate the initial request intake and basic configuration steps, but leave the final security and compliance sign-offs to manual processes to ensure human oversight. Option C. Prioritize speed by deploying custom automation tools that directly interact with the hypervisor and storage, without extensive documentation or integration with existing IT service management (ITSM) tools. Option D. Implement a fully automated, end-to-end provisioning system that bypasses manual review gates to accelerate deployment. Correct answer is D. Implement a fully automated, end-to-end provisioning system that bypasses manual review gates to accelerate deployment. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the need for rapid deployment and operational efficiency with the imperative to adhere to established regulatory frameworks and internal process guidelines. The professional challenge lies in identifying automation strategies that not only enhance process optimization, but also demonstrably meet compliance requirements, particularly concerning data integrity, auditability, and security. This requires a nuanced understanding of how automation tools interact with existing workflows and how to validate that these interactions remain within the bounds of regulatory expectations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, risk-aware methodology for integrating automation. By focusing on identifying and automating repetitive, error-prone tasks within the existing, compliant framework, it minimizes disruption and ensures that automation enhances, rather than compromises, the integrity of data center operations. This approach aligns with the principles of responsible automation, where efficiency gains are achieved without sacrificing security, compliance, or operational stability. The emphasis on validation and continuous monitoring ensures that the automated processes remain compliant over time, a critical aspect of regulatory adherence. Each incorrect approach carries specific regulatory and ethical failures. Automating without understanding the underlying compliance implications risks introducing non-compliance into critical processes. For instance, automating a configuration change without a proper audit trail or validation step could violate regulations requiring auditable records of system modifications. Implementing automation solely based on speed without considering its impact on data integrity or security could lead to breaches or data corruption, violating data protection laws and ethical obligations to safeguard sensitive information. Furthermore, bypassing established change management and validation procedures, even for seemingly minor tasks, undermines the control environment and can lead to unforeseen operational failures, which in turn can have regulatory consequences if they impact service availability or data security. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the regulatory landscape and internal policies governing data center operations. Before implementing any automation, a risk assessment should be conducted to identify potential compliance gaps or vulnerabilities introduced by the proposed automation. The focus should be on automating tasks that are clearly defined, repetitive, and have a low-risk profile, or where automation can demonstrably improve compliance, e.g., by enforcing consistent configurations. Validation and testing are paramount, ensuring that automated processes function as intended and do not violate any regulatory mandates. Continuous monitoring and auditing of automated processes are essential to maintain compliance over the long term. Question 9. Market research demonstrates that organizations are increasingly adopting automated data center solutions to improve agility and efficiency. When designing an automation strategy for a Cisco data center environment, which approach best balances the need for rapid deployment with the imperative to maintain robust security and regulatory compliance within the U.S. federal and industry-specific regulatory landscape? Option A. Implement security and compliance controls as a post-deployment activity, retrofitting them onto the existing automation framework to rectify any identified gaps. Option B. Assign primary responsibility for security and compliance to a dedicated team that operates independently from the automation development and deployment teams. Option C. Integrate security and compliance checks directly into the automation workflows and testing phases from the initial design through deployment and ongoing operations. Option D. Focus solely on rapid deployment of automation scripts to meet immediate business demands, addressing security and compliance concerns in a subsequent, separate project phase. Correct answer is C. Integrate security and compliance checks directly into the automation workflows and testing phases from the initial design through deployment and ongoing operations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation projects, balancing the immediate need for rapid deployment with the long-term implications of security and compliance. Stakeholders often have competing priorities, with business units pushing for speed and IT operations and security teams emphasizing robust controls. The professional challenge lies in navigating these conflicting demands, while ensuring that the chosen automation strategy adheres to the regulatory framework relevant to the Cisco Data Center Solutions DCAUTO exam, which implies a focus on U.S. federal regulations and industry best practices for data security and privacy. Failure to adequately address these aspects can lead to significant compliance violations, data breaches, and reputational damage. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes integrating security and compliance requirements into the automation design from the outset. This aligns with the principles of security by design and compliance by design, which are fundamental to modern IT governance and are implicitly expected within the scope of a Cisco DCAUTO certification. Specifically, this involves leveraging automation tools to enforce security policies, audit configurations, and ensure adherence to relevant U.S. regulations such as NIST guidelines or specific industry mandates, e.g., HIPAA for healthcare data, PCI DSS for payment card information. Automating these checks reduces the risk of human error and provides a consistent, auditable trail of compliance, which is crucial for regulatory audits and risk management. This proactive integration is the most professional practice as it mitigates risk, ensures long-term sustainability, and avoids costly remediation efforts later in the project lifecycle. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing speed of deployment over thorough security and compliance validation. This could manifest as deploying automation scripts without rigorous testing against security benchmarks or without incorporating automated compliance checks. The regulatory failure here is a direct violation of due diligence requirements, potentially leading to non-compliance with data protection laws and industry standards. It creates a significant vulnerability that could be exploited, resulting in data breaches and substantial fines. Another incorrect approach is to implement security and compliance measures as an afterthought, attempting to retrofit them onto an already deployed automation framework. This is inefficient, costly, and often incomplete. The ethical failure lies in neglecting the responsibility to protect sensitive data and systems from the outset. From a regulatory perspective, this reactive approach is unlikely to satisfy the stringent requirements for ongoing compliance and risk management, as it suggests a lack of foresight and a failure to embed controls into the core operational processes. A third incorrect approach might be to delegate security and compliance responsibilities solely to a separate team without adequate collaboration or integration with the automation development process. While specialized teams are important, automation inherently blurs the lines between development, operations, and security. If security and compliance are not an integral part of the automation design and implementation, they can become bottlenecks or be overlooked entirely, leading to gaps in coverage and potential non-compliance. This siloed approach fails to leverage the full potential of automation for security and compliance enforcement. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach, identifying critical data and systems that require the highest level of protection and compliance. The decision-making process should involve close collaboration between automation engineers, security architects, and compliance officers. Automation should be viewed as a tool to enhance security and compliance, not as a separate concern. This means defining clear security and compliance requirements upfront, designing automation workflows that incorporate these requirements, and continuously monitoring and auditing the automated environment for adherence. The goal is to build a secure and compliant data center through intelligent automation, rather than treating security and compliance as add-ons. Question 10. Assessment of the most appropriate stakeholder engagement strategy when a business unit pressures the automation team to deploy new data center automation scripts immediately, bypassing the standard security and compliance review process to meet a critical go-to-market deadline. Option A. Proceed with the deployment of the automation scripts as requested by the business unit to meet the deadline, with a commitment to conduct a post-deployment security and compliance audit. Option B. Deploy the scripts using the vendor's default security settings and assume they meet all regulatory requirements, informing the business unit that the deployment is complete. Option C. Inform the business unit that the security and compliance review process is non-negotiable and refuse to deploy the scripts until the full review is completed, potentially delaying the go-to-market date. Option D. Advocate for integrating automated security and compliance validation checks directly into the CI/CD pipeline, ensuring that scripts are reviewed against defined policies and regulatory requirements before deployment, even if it requires a slight adjustment to the immediate timeline. The correct answer is D. Advocate for integrating automated security and compliance validation checks directly into the CI/CD pipeline, ensuring that scripts are reviewed against defined policies and regulatory requirements before deployment, even if it requires a slight adjustment to the immediate timeline. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the immediate need for rapid deployment with the long-term implications of security and compliance. The professional challenge lies in navigating the pressure from business units to accelerate service delivery while adhering to the strict regulatory framework governing data handling and infrastructure. Failure to do so can result in significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and operational disruptions. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough, risk-based assessment of automation scripts against established security policies and regulatory requirements before deployment. This aligns with the principle of security by design and ensures that automated processes do not inadvertently create vulnerabilities or violate compliance mandates. By integrating security and compliance checks into the automation pipeline, organizations can achieve both agility and assurance, demonstrating a commitment to responsible data center operations. This proactive stance is essential for maintaining trust with stakeholders and regulators. An incorrect approach that bypasses security and compliance reviews to expedite deployment is professionally unacceptable. This directly violates the spirit and letter of regulatory frameworks that mandate due diligence in managing sensitive data and critical infrastructure. Such an action creates significant ethical and regulatory failures, including potential breaches of data privacy laws, non-compliance with industry-specific regulations, e.g., financial services, healthcare, and a failure to uphold fiduciary responsibilities to protect organizational assets and customer data. It demonstrates a disregard for risk management and a prioritization of short-term gains over long-term stability and legal adherence. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on the vendor's default security configurations without independent validation is also professionally deficient. While vendors strive for secure defaults, regulatory compliance often requires specific configurations tailored to an organization's unique risk profile and operational context. Assuming vendor defaults are sufficient without verification can lead to compliance gaps and security vulnerabilities that are not immediately apparent. This approach fails to exercise due professional care and can result in noncompliance due to a lack of organizational due diligence. A third incorrect approach that delegates the entire responsibility for security and compliance validation to the development team without oversight from dedicated security and compliance personnel is also problematic. While developers are crucial in building secure automation, they may lack the specialized knowledge and authority to interpret complex regulatory requirements or conduct comprehensive security audits. This can lead to oversight and the introduction of non-compliant or insecure automation into the production environment, undermining the organization's overall security posture and regulatory standing. The professional decision-making process should involve a multidisciplinary approach. When faced with pressure to deploy automation rapidly, professionals must 1. Clearly articulate the risks associated with bypassing established controls, referencing specific regulatory requirements. 2. Advocate for the integration of automated security and compliance checks within the CI/CD pipeline. 3. Engage with business stakeholders to explain the necessity of these controls for long-term operational integrity and legal adherence. And 4. Seek to optimize the review process through automation and clear, documented procedures rather than eliminating it. Question 11. Comparative studies suggest that while rapid deployment of automated data center solutions is a key objective, the integration of robust security validation and compliance checks within these automation workflows is critical for maintaining operational integrity. Considering the regulatory framework governing data center operations, which approach best balances the need for speed with the imperative of security and compliance when implementing Cisco data center automation. Option A. Focus automation efforts solely on functional aspects of the data center, leaving all security and compliance considerations to be managed through ad hoc manual interventions by the operations team. Option B. Implement automation workflows that include automated security policy validation and compliance checks as integral steps before any configuration changes are applied to the production environment. Option C. Prioritize the speed of deployment by automating configuration changes and deferring all security and compliance validation to a separate manual audit process conducted after the changes have been applied. Option D. Rely on vendor-provided default security settings within the automation tools, assuming they meet all specific regulatory requirements without further validation. The correct answer is B. Implement automation workflows that include automated security policy validation and compliance checks as integral steps before any configuration changes are applied to the production environment. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the immediate need for rapid deployment with the long-term implications of security and compliance. The professional challenge lies in navigating the pressure from stakeholders who may prioritize speed over thorough validation, potentially leading to security vulnerabilities or non-compliance with regulatory frameworks. Careful judgment is required to ensure that automation solutions not only enhance efficiency, but also uphold the integrity and security of the data center environment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a risk-based methodology for security validation within the context of the Cisco data center automation framework. This involves integrating security checks and compliance validations directly into the automation workflows, ensuring that any deployed configuration adheres to established security policies and regulatory requirements. This proactive approach minimizes the risk of introducing vulnerabilities and ensures ongoing compliance, aligning with the principles of secure development and operational best practices. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible automation that considers the entire lifecycle of the deployed solution. An incorrect approach that bypasses or inadequately tests security configurations before deployment is professionally unacceptable. This failure directly contravenes the implicit and explicit requirements of maintaining a secure data center environment, which is paramount in any regulatory framework governing data handling and infrastructure. Such an approach creates significant security risks, potentially leading to data breaches, unauthorized access, and service disruption. Ethically, it represents a dereliction of duty to protect sensitive data and infrastructure. Furthermore, it can lead to severe regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on manual post-deployment security audits is also professionally deficient. While audits are important, relying on them as the primary security control for automated deployments is reactive rather than proactive. This delay in identifying and rectifying security issues increases the window of vulnerability. It fails to leverage the inherent capabilities of automation to embed security from the outset, leading to inefficiencies and increased risk. This approach can be seen as a failure to implement robust security measures, potentially violating compliance mandates that require continuous security monitoring and enforcement. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment. This includes identifying potential security and compliance risks associated with the automation solution, evaluating the likelihood and impact of these risks, and implementing appropriate controls. Professionals should advocate for integrating security and compliance checks into the automation pipeline, rather than treating them as an afterthought. This involves close collaboration with security and compliance teams, understanding the relevant regulatory landscape, and ensuring that automation solutions are designed and implemented with security and compliance as core requirements. The decision-making framework should prioritize a defense-in-depth strategy, where security is layered throughout the automation process. Question 12. The control framework reveals a critical need to automate the deployment of network services within the data center. A key stakeholder group, representing the business operations team, is pushing for the fastest possible rollout of these automated deployments to meet aggressive market demands. They are concerned that extensive security validation and compliance checks will significantly delay the project. What is the most professional approach to ensure both rapid deployment and adherence to security and compliance requirements? Option A. Develop and integrate automated security and compliance validation checks directly into the CI/CD pipeline for network service deployments, ensuring that each automated deployment is rigorously tested against predefined security policies and compliance benchmarks before it can be promoted to production. Option B. Prioritize the business operations team's request for speed by deferring all non-critical security and compliance validation until after the initial deployment, with a commitment to address them in a subsequent, less time-sensitive phase. Option C. Rely on the inherent security features of the chosen automation platform and the expertise of the deployment team to ensure compliance, without the need for explicit, automated validation checks within the deployment workflow. Option D. Implement a phased rollout strategy where initial deployments focus on core functionality with minimal security validation, with comprehensive security and compliance checks to be performed retrospectively after the system is live and operational. The correct answer is D. Implement a phased rollout strategy where initial deployments focus on core functionality with minimal security validation, with comprehensive security and compliance checks to be performed retrospectively after the system is live and operational. Explanation. The control framework reveals a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the immediate need for rapid deployment with the long-term imperative of robust security and compliance. Stakeholders, particularly those focused on business agility and time to market, may advocate for streamlined, less stringent validation processes. Conversely, security and compliance teams, responsible for adhering to regulatory mandates and mitigating risks, will prioritize thoroughness and adherence to established controls. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires navigating competing priorities and influencing diverse stakeholder groups to adopt a unified, risk-aware approach to automation implementation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive, risk-based validation strategy that integrates security and compliance from the outset. This aligns with the principles of secure development lifecycles and proactive risk management, which are implicitly or explicitly mandated by various regulatory frameworks governing data handling and infrastructure. By establishing clear validation criteria, automated testing, and continuous monitoring, organizations can ensure that automated solutions not only deliver efficiency, but also meet stringent security and compliance requirements, thereby minimizing the risk of breaches, fines, and reputational damage. This proactive stance is crucial for maintaining trust and operational integrity. An incorrect approach that bypasses thorough security validation for speed would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Such an approach directly contravenes the principle of due diligence in protecting sensitive data and maintaining system integrity, which are core tenets of data protection regulations. It also creates an unacceptable ethical risk by exposing the organization and its customers to potential harm from vulnerabilities. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on manual ad hoc security checks without a structured, repeatable, and auditable process fails to meet the standards of modern compliance frameworks. This lack of systematic validation makes it impossible to demonstrate consistent adherence to controls and leaves the organization vulnerable to oversight and potential noncompliance findings. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment. This includes identifying potential threats and vulnerabilities introduced by automation, evaluating the impact of these risks against business objectives and regulatory obligations, and then designing validation and testing strategies that effectively mitigate those identified risks. Engaging all relevant stakeholders early in the process, clearly communicating the rationale behind proposed validation steps, and seeking consensus on acceptable risk levels are critical for successful implementation. The goal is to achieve a balance where automation benefits are realized without compromising security or compliance posture. Question 13. To address the challenge of rapidly deploying automated data center solutions while ensuring adherence to stringent data protection regulations and maintaining a robust security posture, which of the following automation strategies best aligns with professional best practices and regulatory expectations? Option A. Integrate automated security and compliance validation checks directly into the CI/CD pipelines and automation workflows, ensuring that only secure and compliant configurations are deployed. Option B. Develop automation scripts without immediate consideration for security or compliance, relying on a separate team to perform manual audits post-deployment. Option C. Focus solely on accelerating deployment speed, with a plan to address security and compliance issues in subsequent manual review and remediation cycles. Option D. Implement automation without any built-in security or compliance checks, assuming that existing network security controls will suffice. The correct answer is A. Integrate automated security and compliance validation checks directly into the CI/CD pipelines and automation workflows, ensuring that only secure and compliant configurations are deployed. Explanation. Scenario analysis. The scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the immediate need for rapid deployment and feature delivery with the long-term imperative of maintaining robust security and compliance. Stakeholders, particularly business units, often prioritize speed to market, while security and compliance teams focus on risk mitigation and adherence to regulations. This inherent tension requires a nuanced approach to automation strategy that integrates security and compliance from the outset, rather than treating them as afterthoughts. The professional challenge lies in effectively communicating the value of a security-first automation approach to business stakeholders and demonstrating how it ultimately supports their goals by preventing costly breaches and regulatory penalties. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes the integration of security and compliance checks directly into the automation workflows. This aligns with the principle of shift-left security, where security considerations are addressed early in the development lifecycle. By embedding automated security validations, e.g., vulnerability scanning, configuration compliance checks against established baselines within CI/CD pipelines, the organization ensures that only compliant and secure code or configurations are deployed. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of introducing vulnerabilities or non-compliance into the production environment, thereby reducing the likelihood of security incidents and regulatory fines. This approach is best professional practice because it directly addresses the regulatory requirements for data protection and system integrity by building security into the automated processes, making it a fundamental aspect of the solution rather than an add-on. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that relies solely on manual security reviews after the automation has been developed and deployed is professionally unacceptable. This is because manual reviews are prone to human error, are time-consuming, and create a bottleneck, directly contradicting the efficiency gains automation is meant to provide. Ethically and regulatorily, this approach fails to implement timely risk mitigation, potentially exposing sensitive data or systems to threats for extended periods. It also increases the likelihood of overlooking critical security flaws, leading to potential breaches and non-compliance with data protection laws. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize speed of deployment above all else, deferring security and compliance considerations to a later patch phase. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It demonstrates a disregard for the potential harm that insecure systems can cause to individuals and the organization. From a regulatory standpoint, many data protection laws mandate proactive security measures and timely remediation of vulnerabilities. Delaying these aspects significantly increases the risk of noncompliance, leading to substantial fines and reputational damage. Finally, an approach that treats security and compliance as separate, siloed processes, disconnected from the automation development team, is also professionally flawed. This leads to a lack of understanding and integration, where automation might inadvertently bypass or undermine existing security controls. It creates an adversarial relationship between teams and hinders the overall effectiveness of both automation and security initiatives. This siloed approach is a recipe for compliance gaps and security vulnerabilities. The automation team may not be aware of the latest regulatory requirements or security best practices, and the security team may not understand the intricacies of the automated workflows. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to automation design, prioritizing the integration of security and compliance controls at every stage of the automation lifecycle. This involves close collaboration between development, operations, security, and compliance teams. When evaluating automation strategies, professionals should ask, does this automation proactively address potential security and compliance risks? And can these risks be identified and mitigated automatically as part of the workflow? The decision-making process should involve a thorough understanding of relevant regulations and industry best practices, ensuring that the chosen automation solutions not only deliver efficiency, but also uphold the highest standards of security and compliance. Question 14. Operational review demonstrates that a new automated provisioning workflow for network services in the data center has the potential to significantly reduce deployment times by 40%. However, the initial development of this workflow did not include a formal security review or a comprehensive compliance audit against current data center policies. The project lead is pushing for immediate deployment to meet aggressive business targets. Which of the following approaches best addresses this situation while adhering to professional best practices for data center automation? Option A. Deploy the automated workflow to a limited, non-production environment for initial testing, while simultaneously initiating the security review and compliance audit for potential future production deployment. Option B. Proceed with immediate deployment of the automated workflow, informing the security and compliance teams of the deployment post facto, and address any identified issues reactively. Option C. Deploy the automated workflow with a temporary, less secure configuration to meet the deadline, with a plan to implement the full security measures in a subsequent update. Option D. Halt the deployment of the automated workflow until a thorough security review and compliance audit are completed, and any necessary modifications are implemented and retested. The correct answer is B. Proceed with immediate deployment of the automated workflow, informing the security and compliance teams of the deployment post facto, and address any identified issues reactively. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the immediate need for operational efficiency with the long-term implications of security and compliance. Professional challenge lies in making a decision that optimizes automation benefits without introducing unacceptable risks, especially when faced with pressure to deliver results quickly. Careful judgment is required to assess the trade-offs between speed, security, and adherence to established protocols. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough risk assessment and validation process before deploying automated solutions. This aligns with the principles of responsible technology adoption and the need to maintain a secure and compliant data center environment. Specifically, it upholds the implicit regulatory expectation within the context of general IT best practices and common compliance frameworks that would be relevant to a Cisco data center environment, such as those focused on data integrity and security, of due diligence in implementing new technologies. By involving security and compliance teams, it ensures that automated workflows are not only efficient, but also secure and meet all relevant governance requirements. This proactive stance minimizes the likelihood of introducing vulnerabilities or non-compliance issues that could have significant financial and reputational consequences. An incorrect approach that bypasses security reviews introduces a direct regulatory and ethical failure, demonstrates a disregard for established security policies, and potentially violates data protection regulations by exposing sensitive systems to unvetted automation. This could lead to data breaches, unauthorized access, and significant penalties. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thorough testing and validation, even with security team awareness, fails to adequately mitigate risks. While transparency is good, deploying unproven automation without rigorous testing can lead to unintended consequences, system instability, and potential compliance violations due to unforeseen operational impacts. This approach neglects the professional responsibility to ensure the reliability and integrity of automated processes. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the objectives of automation. This should be followed by a comprehensive risk assessment, considering security, compliance, and operational impacts. Engaging relevant stakeholders, including security and compliance teams, early in the process is crucial. A phased deployment approach with robust testing and validation at each stage, coupled with continuous monitoring, forms a sound decision-making process for implementing data center automation solutions. This iterative and collaborative approach ensures that automation goals are met responsibly and sustainably. Question 15. Market research demonstrates a growing demand for faster provisioning of virtualized network services within the data center. A team is tasked with automating this provisioning process using Cisco solutions. They are considering several approaches to integrate this new automation. Which approach best balances the need for rapid service delivery with the imperative of maintaining a secure and compliant operational environment? Option A. Deploy the automation with minimal security considerations, focusing solely on functional correctness and speed, with the understanding that security will be retrofitted later if issues arise. Option B. Rely on existing manual security checks and compliance procedures, assuming they will be sufficient for the automated provisioning process without explicit revalidation. Option C. Implement the automation scripts and workflows immediately to meet the service delivery SLA, and address any security or compliance concerns in a subsequent patch or update. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive security and compliance review of the proposed automation scripts and workflows, including risk assessment and integration of security controls, before full deployment, followed by a phased rollout with continuous monitoring. Correct answer is C. Implement the automation scripts and workflows immediately to meet the service delivery SLA, and address any security or compliance concerns in a subsequent patch or update. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation, balancing the immediate need for rapid deployment with the imperative of maintaining robust security and compliance. The pressure to deliver new services quickly can lead to shortcuts that inadvertently introduce vulnerabilities or violate established regulatory frameworks. The professional challenge lies in navigating these competing demands, ensuring that automation initiatives do not compromise the integrity or security posture of the data center, especially within the context of the 300-635 DCAUTO. Exams focus on Cisco solutions and their integration into automated workflows. The specific jurisdiction for this exam is not explicitly stated, implying a need to adhere to general best practices and common regulatory principles applicable to data center operations, which often align with frameworks like NIST or ISO 27001, without referencing specific country laws. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, risk-based methodology for integrating new automation tools and workflows. This means conducting a thorough security and compliance assessment before full deployment. This assessment should identify potential risks, such as unauthorized access, data leakage, or configuration drift, and define mitigation strategies. Implementing automation with built-in security controls, such as role-based access control (RBAC) and automated compliance checks, ensures that the deployment process itself adheres to security best practices. Furthermore, a phased rollout with continuous monitoring and auditing allows for early detection and remediation of any issues, aligning with the principle of least privilege and defense in depth. This approach prioritizes security and compliance as foundational elements of automation, rather than afterthoughts, which is crucial for maintaining a secure and compliant data center environment. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing speed of deployment over security and compliance. This might manifest as deploying automation scripts or tools without adequate review, testing, or integration of security controls. This directly violates the principle of secure by design and can lead to significant security vulnerabilities, data breaches, and noncompliance with industry standards or internal policies. Such an approach creates a reactive security posture, where issues are addressed only after they have been exploited, which is far more costly and damaging than a proactive one. Another incorrect approach is to assume that existing security measures are sufficient for automated workflows without explicit validation. Automation can introduce new attack vectors or bypass existing manual controls. Failing to reassess security requirements in the context of automation, such as how credentials are managed or how configuration changes are logged and audited, is a critical oversight. This can lead to a false sense of security and leave the data center exposed to threats that were not anticipated. A third incorrect approach is to implement automation without a clear understanding of the regulatory landscape or internal compliance requirements. This can result in automated processes that inadvertently generate audit trails that are not compliant, store data in non-compliant locations, or perform actions that violate data privacy regulations. The lack of upfront due diligence regarding compliance can lead to significant legal and financial repercussions. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that integrates security and compliance into every stage of the automation lifecycle. This involves 1. Risk assessment. Proactively identify potential security and compliance risks associated with automation. 2. Secure design. Incorporate security and compliance requirements into the design of automation solutions from the outset. 3. Phased implementation. Deploy automation in stages with thorough testing and validation at each step. 4. Continuous monitoring and auditing. Establish mechanisms for ongoing monitoring of automated processes and regular auditing to ensure compliance and detect anomalies. 5. Documentation and training. Maintain comprehensive documentation of automation processes and ensure that relevant personnel are trained on security and compliance best practices. This structured approach ensures that automation enhances efficiency without compromising the security and integrity of the data center. Question 16. Quality control measures reveal that a newly developed Python script designed to automate network device configuration updates in the data center has passed initial functional tests, demonstrating significant time savings. However, concerns have been raised by a junior engineer regarding potential security implications of the script's access credentials and its interaction with network management protocols, which have not been formally reviewed by the security team. The project manager is eager to deploy the script to meet aggressive project timelines. What is the most professional and compliant approach to proceed? Option A. Proceed with deployment as planned, instructing the junior engineer to monitor for any unusual activity and report it if observed. Option B. Conduct a thorough security assessment, including penetration testing and code review, involving the security team before full deployment, even if it delays the project timeline. Option C. Deploy the script immediately to leverage its efficiency gains, assuming the vendor's security claims for the underlying libraries are sufficient. Option D. Implement the script in a limited production environment for a week to gauge its performance and security in real time, without a formal pre-deployment security review. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough security assessment, including penetration testing and code review, involving the security team before full deployment, even if it delays the project timeline. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation where a new integration, while promising efficiency gains, introduces potential security vulnerabilities. The challenge lies in balancing the drive for innovation and operational improvement with the paramount need to maintain data integrity and compliance with regulatory frameworks. The pressure to deploy quickly can lead to overlooking critical security checkpoints, making a structured decision-making process essential. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough, risk-based security assessment before full deployment. This aligns with the principles of secure development and operational best practices, which are implicitly or explicitly mandated by various regulatory frameworks governing data handling and IT infrastructure. By engaging security teams and conducting penetration testing, the organization proactively identifies and mitigates potential threats. This demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to protecting sensitive data, which is a core ethical and often regulatory requirement. This approach ensures that automation benefits are realized without compromising the security posture, thus upholding the organization's responsibility to its stakeholders and compliance obligations. Incorrect approach is analysis, deploying the integration without a comprehensive security review, despite initial positive testing, is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It bypasses established security protocols and exposes the data center to potential breaches, violating principles of data protection and confidentiality. This could lead to non-compliance with data privacy regulations, resulting in severe penalties and reputational damage. Relying solely on vendor claims of security without independent verification is also professionally unsound. While vendors have a responsibility to provide secure products, the ultimate responsibility for the security of the deployed environment rests with the organization. This approach abdicates due diligence and could lead to the adoption of insecure configurations or undisclosed vulnerabilities, again risking regulatory noncompliance and data compromise. Implementing the integration in a phased rollout without a formal risk assessment, even if it limits initial exposure, still carries inherent risks. A phased rollout without understanding the full security implications of each phase can still lead to unforeseen vulnerabilities being exploited. Absence of a proactive risk assessment means that potential attack vectors might not be identified until they are exploited rather than being prevented. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves 1. Identifying potential risks associated with the proposed automation. 2. Assessing the likelihood and impact of each identified risk. 3. Evaluating existing controls and determining if they are sufficient. 4. Implementing additional controls or mitigation strategies where necessary. 5. Continuously monitoring and reviewing the effectiveness of controls. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with both business objectives and regulatory requirements. Question 17. Consider a scenario where a new Cisco data center automation solution promises significant improvements in network provisioning speed and operational efficiency. The automation team is eager to implement it to meet aggressive project timelines. However, initial vendor documentation suggests a new API integration that, while powerful, has not been extensively vetted by the organization's internal security team for potential vulnerabilities. The organization operates under U.S. federal and state data protection regulations. Which of the following approaches best represents professional decision-making in this situation? Option A. Deploy the solution and monitor network traffic for any unusual activity, relying on existing security tools to detect potential issues. Option B. Proceed with immediate deployment of the automation solution to meet project deadlines, assuming the vendor has addressed common security concerns. Option C. Implement the solution in a limited, non-production environment and gather feedback from a few trusted colleagues before a wider rollout. Option D. Delay deployment and conduct a comprehensive security risk assessment involving the security team to validate the solution's security posture and compliance with relevant U.S. data protection regulations before full implementation. The correct answer is B. Proceed with immediate deployment of the automation solution to meet project deadlines, assuming the vendor has addressed common security concerns. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation where a new solution, while promising efficiency gains, introduces potential security vulnerabilities. The professional challenge lies in balancing the drive for automation and operational efficiency with the paramount responsibility of maintaining data security and compliance. The pressure to adopt new technologies quickly can sometimes overshadow a thorough risk assessment, making careful judgment and a structured decision-making process essential. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive security risk assessment and validation process before full deployment. This aligns with best professional practices and regulatory expectations for data center operations. In the U.S., frameworks like NIST Cybersecurity Framework and specific regulations such as HIPAA for healthcare data or PCI DSS for payment card data mandate robust security controls and risk management. Implementing a phased rollout with rigorous testing in a controlled environment involving security teams and ensuring adherence to established security policies and compliance requirements demonstrates due diligence. This proactive approach minimizes the likelihood of security breaches, protects sensitive data, and ensures the organization remains compliant with relevant U.S. data protection laws and industry standards. Incorrect approaches analysis. Deploying the solution immediately based on vendor claims without independent security validation is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This bypasses critical risk management processes mandated by U.S. regulations like NIST, which emphasize identifying and mitigating cybersecurity risks. It exposes the organization to potential data breaches, leading to severe financial penalties, reputational damage, and legal liabilities under laws like the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, or HIPAA. Implementing the solution without involving the security team and relying solely on the automation team's assessment is another failure. This violates the principle of shared responsibility for security and can lead to overlooked vulnerabilities. Security teams are specifically trained to identify threats and ensure compliance with security standards, and their exclusion from the decision-making process creates a blind spot. This disregard for established security protocols can result in noncompliance with internal security policies and external regulation, potentially leading to audit failures and enforcement actions. Relying on anecdotal evidence or the opinions of a few colleagues about the solution's security is unprofessional and risky. This approach lacks the rigor required for making critical infrastructure decisions and ignores the need for objective, evidence-based assessments. It fails to meet the professional standard of care expected in managing sensitive data center environments and can lead to the adoption of insecure technologies, directly contravening the security objectives outlined in U.S. regulatory frameworks. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves 1. Identifying potential risks associated with the proposed automation solution, particularly concerning data security and compliance. 2. Evaluating the likelihood and impact of these risks. 3. Exploring and implementing mitigation strategies, including thorough security testing and validation. 4. Seeking input from all relevant stakeholders, especially security and compliance teams. 5. Documenting the decision-making process and the rationale behind the chosen course of action. This structured approach ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with organizational security posture and regulatory obligations. Question 18. The investigation demonstrates that a network automation engineer is evaluating several potential solutions for automating data center provisioning and configuration management. One solution offers rapid deployment and a user-friendly interface but lacks detailed audit trails and relies on proprietary protocols. Another solution requires a more significant initial investment and a steeper learning curve but provides comprehensive logging, supports open standards, and has a strong security certification. A third option is a free, open-source tool that is highly customizable but has limited official support and a community-driven development model with an inconsistent release cycle. The engineer must recommend a solution that balances efficiency with long-term operational integrity and adherence to potential future compliance mandates. Option A. Recommend the free, open-source tool due to its customizability and zero licensing fees, assuming the organization can allocate resources for internal support and development. Option B. Recommend the solution with the rapid deployment and user-friendly interface, prioritizing immediate efficiency gains and ease of use over detailed audit trails and open standards. Option C. Recommend the solution that offers comprehensive logging, supports open standards, and has a strong security certification, despite its higher initial cost and learning curve. Option D. Recommend a hybrid approach by integrating components from all three solutions to leverage their individual strengths, without a clear strategy for managing interdependencies and potential security gaps. The correct answer is C. Recommend the solution that offers comprehensive logging, supports open standards, and has a strong security certification, despite its higher initial cost and learning curve. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a scenario where a network automation engineer is tasked with implementing a new data center automation solution. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for operational efficiency and cost reduction with the long-term implications of security, compliance, and vendor lock-in. The engineer must make a critical decision regarding the choice of automation tools and platforms, considering not only technical capabilities, but also adherence to established industry best practices and potential regulatory frameworks relevant to data center operations. The correct approach involves a comprehensive evaluation of automation solutions that prioritizes security by design, auditability, and interoperability. This aligns with the principle of responsible technology adoption, ensuring that the automation solution does not introduce new vulnerabilities or hinder future flexibility. A solution that supports open standards and provides robust logging and reporting mechanisms is crucial for demonstrating compliance and facilitating troubleshooting. This approach represents best professional practice by embedding security and compliance considerations from the outset, mitigating risks, and ensuring the solution's long-term viability and alignment with organizational governance. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on the lowest initial cost or the most readily available solution without a thorough assessment of its security posture or compliance implications. This could lead to the adoption of tools with known vulnerabilities, inadequate auditing capabilities, or proprietary architectures that create vendor lock-in, making future migrations or integrations difficult and potentially non-compliant with evolving regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize features that offer immediate but superficial efficiency gains without considering the underlying architectural soundness or the potential for unintended consequences on data integrity or access control. Such choices often stem from a short-sighted perspective that neglects the broader operational and regulatory landscape, leading to significant technical debt and compliance risks down the line. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the problem and desired outcomes, including security and compliance requirements. This should be followed by identifying and evaluating potential solutions against a predefined set of criteria that includes technical merit, security features, compliance support, vendor reputation, total cost of ownership, and long-term strategic alignment. A risk assessment should be conducted for each viable option, and a pilot or proof-of-concept phase is recommended to validate performance and security in a controlled environment before full deployment. Finally, a clear justification for the chosen solution, documented with supporting evidence from the evaluation process, should be presented to stakeholders. Question 19. Upon reviewing the proposed automation strategy for a new data center deployment, which approach best balances the imperative for rapid deployment with the non-negotiable requirements for data security and regulatory compliance? Option A. Implement the automation solution with minimal documentation, focusing on operational efficiency, and assume that standard security protocols are sufficient without specific validation for the new automation. Option B. Deploy the automation solution immediately to meet business timelines, relying on the vendor's assurances of security and compliance, and address any potential issues post-implementation. Option C. Implement the automation solution incrementally, with each phase undergoing thorough security penetration testing and compliance validation before proceeding to the next, ensuring comprehensive documentation and audit trails are maintained throughout. Option D. Prioritize the automation solution's core functionality and speed of deployment, deferring detailed security and compliance checks to a later, less critical phase of the project. The correct answer is C. Implement the automation solution incrementally, with each phase undergoing thorough security penetration testing and compliance validation before proceeding to the next, ensuring comprehensive documentation and audit trails are maintained throughout. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid deployment of new automation technologies and the need for robust security and compliance. The pressure to deliver a functional solution quickly can lead to shortcuts that bypass essential validation steps, potentially exposing the data center to vulnerabilities or non-compliance with regulatory mandates. The complexity of modern data center automation, involving multiple integrated systems and potentially sensitive data, amplifies the risk. A hasty decision without proper due diligence can have significant financial, operational, and reputational consequences. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation with rigorous testing and validation at each stage, prioritizing security and compliance checks. This aligns with best practices in IT governance and risk management, which emphasize a proactive rather than reactive stance on security and compliance. By integrating security and compliance requirements from the outset and validating them throughout the development lifecycle, the organization minimizes the risk of introducing vulnerabilities or violating regulations. This methodical approach ensures that the automated solution is not only functional, but also secure, reliable, and compliant, thereby safeguarding sensitive data and maintaining operational integrity. This aligns with the principles of secure development and operational excellence expected in regulated environments. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing automation without comprehensive security and compliance validation introduces significant regulatory and ethical risks. This approach bypasses critical control points designed to prevent data breaches, unauthorized access, and noncompliance with data protection laws. It demonstrates a disregard for due diligence and a failure to uphold professional responsibility to protect sensitive information and adhere to established legal frameworks. Such an approach can lead to severe penalties, including fines, legal action, and reputational damage, stemming from violations of data privacy regulations and security standards. Deploying automation based solely on vendor claims without independent verification is another professionally unacceptable approach. While vendor assurances are important, they do not absolve the implementing organization of its responsibility to ensure the solution meets specific security and compliance needs. Relying solely on vendor statements without internal validation can lead to overlooking unique environmental risks or specific regulatory interpretations. This failure to perform due diligence can result in non-compliance and security gaps that the vendor's standard assurances do not cover. Prioritizing speed of deployment over thorough documentation and audit trails creates a significant compliance risk. Robust documentation is essential for demonstrating adherence to regulations, facilitating audits, and enabling effective troubleshooting and incident response. Without proper documentation, it becomes difficult, if not impossible, to prove compliance or to understand the system's behavior in case of an incident, leading to potential regulatory scrutiny and penalties. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying potential risks associated with automation, assessing their likelihood and impact, and implementing controls to mitigate them. Key steps include 1. Requirements gathering. Clearly define functional, security, and compliance requirements upfront. 2. Design and architecture. Incorporate security and compliance considerations into the design phase. 3. Phased implementation. Break down the automation project into manageable phases, with testing and validation at each stage. 4. Continuous testing and validation. Implement automated testing for functionality, security, and compliance. 5. Documentation and auditing. Maintain comprehensive documentation and audit trails throughout the lifecycle. 6. Stakeholder communication. Ensure clear communication with all relevant stakeholders, including security, compliance, and legal teams. 7. Post-implementation review. Conduct regular reviews to ensure ongoing compliance and security. Question 20. The assessment process reveals that a new Cisco data center automation solution offers significant potential for streamlining network provisioning and reducing manual errors. However, preliminary analysis indicates that the solution's API integrations, while powerful, may introduce new attack vectors if not properly secured. The team is under pressure to deploy this solution rapidly to meet business objectives. Which approach best balances the benefits of automation with the imperative of maintaining a secure and compliant data center environment? Option A. Immediately deploy the automation solution to production to realize the efficiency gains and address any security concerns that arise post-deployment. Option B. Implement the automation solution in a live production environment without extensive security testing, relying on existing network security controls to mitigate potential risks. Option C. Prioritize the deployment of the automation solution for its efficiency benefits, deferring detailed security reviews until after the initial rollout is complete. Option D. Conduct a thorough security vulnerability assessment and penetration test of the automation solution and its integrations in a dedicated staging environment before proceeding with any production deployment. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough security vulnerability assessment and penetration test of the automation solution and its integrations in a dedicated staging environment before proceeding with any production deployment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in data center automation where a new solution, while promising efficiency gains, introduces potential security vulnerabilities. The professional challenge lies in balancing the drive for automation and operational efficiency with the paramount responsibility of maintaining data security and compliance with regulatory frameworks. The pressure to adopt new technologies quickly can sometimes overshadow a thorough risk assessment, making careful judgment and adherence to established protocols critical. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation with rigorous security validation at each stage, directly aligning with the principles of secure development and deployment mandated by data center security best practices and general IT governance frameworks. This methodical approach ensures that security controls are integrated from the outset and continuously verified, minimizing the risk of introducing exploitable weaknesses. It reflects a proactive security posture, which is a cornerstone of responsible IT management and a key expectation in regulated environments. This aligns with the DCAUTO exam's focus on integrating automation securely. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the solution without a comprehensive security audit before full deployment represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It violates the principle of due diligence in security, potentially exposing sensitive data to unauthorized access or modification, which could lead to breaches of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. This approach disregards the need for risk mitigation and could result in non-compliance with data protection regulations. Deploying the solution in a production environment without prior testing in a segregated, representative staging environment is another critical failure. This bypasses essential validation steps, increasing the likelihood of unforeseen operational issues or security flaws impacting live services. It demonstrates a lack of professional responsibility and a disregard for established change management and risk assessment processes. Focusing solely on the automation benefits without adequately assessing the security implications demonstrates a flawed decision-making process. It prioritizes one aspect of IT management, efficiency, over another equally critical aspect, security and compliance. This narrow focus can lead to the adoption of solutions that, while automating tasks, create larger, more complex risks that are harder to manage and remediate. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves 1. Identifying potential risks associated with the proposed automation solution, particularly concerning security and compliance. 2. Assessing the likelihood and impact of these risks. 3. Evaluating mitigation strategies, including phased rollouts, security audits, and robust testing. 4. Selecting the approach that best balances innovation with security and regulatory adherence. 5. Documenting the decision-making process and the rationale for the chosen approach, including any residual risks.